Thune did not file cloture on the Clarity Act, and the reason on the record is not crypto. If you hold 5,000 XRP, that filing is your clock, not the candle. The XRP price sits at $1.06. Ellen and Terra covers this beat for Fox Business. Procedural matters relating to the ongoing CR would explain why leader Thune didn't file cloture on the motion to proceed to the Clarity Act this evening, although not having the votes and major issues still being debated likely the factor in it. This is your XRP news desk. The number I'm watching is not a percentage. It is a countdown nobody has started. Cloture is a step that ends the debate and starts the countdown, and exactly one man can take it. So a funding argument nobody in crypto is part of now owns the calendar for XRP's rulebook. The Clarity Act. The Senate has sat on this for over a year and breaks for recess this legislative week.
Before you go, I know that the Clarity Act did not appear on the Senate's calendar for the final legislative week before recess. It's been held up in the Senate for over a year. What can you tell us about the status of this bill? You've worked so hard on the Genius Act. Do you think the Clarity Act will make it?
We're going to have to pass the Clarity Act. There's no way that we can allow the United States to fall behind in the digital assets arena. Everything is moving digital around the world. The Genius Act was a major step forward to make certain that the digital dollar remains dominant in the world. But we need to follow it up with the remainder of the market. We're going to have to pass the Clarity Act. I think the problem is, will we be able to pass this with Democrats right now, or are they going to let midterm politics get in the way? I think we should just put it to a vote on the floor of the United States Senate and find out where the Democrats stand.
A senator asking for a recorded vote is not a senator counting his losses. Delay is free while it stays quiet, and a vote is loud. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell if you want more XRP news. Nobody outside that chamber ever learns a name until the roll is called. So what he's really asking for is a list of who is willing to be named against XRP in public. The Clarity Act has never had that pressure behind it, and there is an order to all of this because the Senate does not get to do everything at once.
Clarity Act, you know how much work I put into the Genius Act.
I know.
The stablecoin legislation. As we move into the digital arena, we need to have responsible legislation in place, and the Clarity Act, again, is front and center. We need to turn our attention to that as well. So there's a lot to get done, but I think the absolute first priority is to prevent this shutdown and the chaos that would ensue.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see us moving forward on that.
And I understand the CR urgency because they will shut the government down when funding runs out at the end of September. I get that. But what's the problem in the Senate that is keeping so many things backed up? I mean, there are questions surrounding the state of the August recess, Thune prioritizing government funding and the Russia sanctions bill, but offering little clarity about what else is on the table, Senator. You say you want to stay in Washington until you can pass the Save America Act, but we're hearing your colleagues are raising concerns about vulnerable senators needing to return home to campaign. And they also, John Thune told me directly, he does not have the votes for Save America Act. So what is the likelihood of you actually getting that across the finish line?
I actually think that we're going to have to listen to the public on this one, Maria. As I go home, I just got back from Tennessee over the past weekend. Americans want to see us pass this act. They want election integrity, and this is not a partisan issue. Every American, this is an 80% plus issue. They want to see it get done. I think we're going to have to find a way to do it. I understand the reluctance of some of my colleagues because this opens up a process. This budget reconciliation process opens up this unlimited amendment process where the Democrats will have us voting against Santa Claus, against Christmas, against apple pie. You name it. We're going to have to lock arms and stand strong, take the tough votes, and get our way through this. But I think it would be very, very challenging for us to go back to our constituents and tell them that we didn't give it our very best to get this done, and I think that we can do it.
Queued behind funding is a very different place from buried. A shutdown deadline has a date attached, and dates arrive. So the order he laid out is not a preference. I read it as simple math about how many hours the chamber has left before it goes home. And hold on, because the calendar is only half of this. Something inside the Clarity Act itself is unsettled. Summer Mersinger speaks for the crypto industry in these rooms, and she named it on Bloomberg hours before that file slipped.
We're getting there in ethics. We seem to be on the kind of the 10-yard line here. The right players are working on it. They've had good discussions, good negotiations, and I think that we are headed in a direction where we're going to get a good vote on this bill.
But as you've mentioned, you've said ethics are the elephant in the room blocking the Clarity Act. You've also said, though, the industry isn't trying to dictate ethics provisions and what they should look like. The president, we should note, disclosed a $1.4 billion in personal crypto income. His family runs World Liberty Financial, plus a meme coin. Democrats will not vote without these new guardrails. Can the industry really afford to stay neutral on ethics when ethics could be the thing that kills it?
I think that it's up to the government officials. You know, this is an ethics agreement that will impact all of the elected officials, and so that's something that they need to work out together. Again, the right people are having the right conversations, and so we're headed in a good direction. And from crypto side, you know, we just really encourage them to keep talking so that we can get this across the finish line.
Ethics rules cover how senators themselves are allowed to trade, and that is a snag. It has nothing to do with XRP and nothing to do with whether the Clarity Act is any good, which means nobody on that floor is arguing the case down on the merits. The holdup lives inside the Senate's own housekeeping, and a quarrel over how many members handle their own money is the cheapest kind there is to settle because both sides want the same cover. A chamber that did not want XRP to have rules would fight this on what the rules say. This one is fighting about itself, and the loudest complaint I found about the Clarity Act did not come from the senator at all. There is a concession buried inside that hedge. A paper that wanted the Clarity Act dead would say it would not exist. Asking for edits concedes the destination, and I'll take that argument every single time. The establishment moved from whether to which, and the people holding XRP are the ones who collect when it lands. So, one question for you. Does Thune file before the Senate breaks, or does the Clarity Act wait? Drop files or waits in a comment below, and tap the like, subscribe, and notification bell while you're down there. There is money already being betted on the answer, and it's not betting the way you would guess. The Clarity Act, signed into law by 2026, the odds just dropped to a 13% chance. Actually dropped about 50% in just this single day. And before you write that market off as bearish, notice what it actually settles on. A presidential signature before the end of December. That is pricing a whole year of Washington traffic, not the one filing this story turns on. A prediction market pays out on its own written question, never on the thing that you were thinking about. So that number tells you what strangers believe about a signing ceremony. That's not a verdict for XRP. What I keep coming back to is the gap. A filing could happen inside a day, and that money has not bothered to look at the calendar. Gaps like that close fast, and you know the moment this one starts closing. Here we can see the spot XRP ETFs, and we can see there has been a consistent inflow overall. All of these funds bought in while the rulebook was still stuck in a queue, which means they were never waiting for permission. And XRP sitting inside a regulated fund is XRP no longer for sale on an exchange. So every month those funds grow, the pile the next buyer has to bid against gets thinner. That is the quiet half of this story. The buying that already happened cannot be undone by a bad headline. And I count that as the strongest tell in this whole video. Ripple is building on the same assumption. This is from Monica Long, the president of Ripple. In the last year, we've seen a light switch flip from bank pilots to production, from issuing tokenized assets like money market funds and liquidity funds to using them. Institutional capital markets are moving in one direction, on-chain 24/7. At Ripple, our goal remains to provide the full stack of digital asset infrastructure, allowing institutional participants to take advantage of the entire life cycle of a tokenized asset on the XRP Ledger. I covered this in yesterday's video where we had Ripple actually deepening their push in capital markets, investing in Xylo and Lucidio. The plumbing is finished, the permission is not. So here is what a queue actually buys if you hold 5,000 XRP. American banks cannot hold at size what they cannot classify, and the classification is the entire product the Clarity Act ships. The missing piece was never the technology. RLUSD already exists. The XRP Ledger settles in seconds, and none of that ever needed a vote. The missing piece was permission, and permission is now the one filing and the one intervening, one day away from a floor test. I've never seen it this close, and I want that live XRP chart on the screen again because I have nothing I put on depended on a green candle. Your XRP news today comes down to one word for the Clarity Act: queued. Here is my ladder I'm watching, and every step is a condition, not a promise. $3 to $7 once America finally writes XRP's rules. $10 to $30 when ETF desks stop waiting for permission. Higher than that only when banks are settling across the XRP ledger every day. The people who write the rules just told you the order. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Stack facts, not fear. I'll see you in tomorrow's video.